Irene, do people often ask you how you discovered this gift, and what do you usually tell them about it?
Usually after the session, almost every third person asks me how it happened and what happens to me, what I feel. In fact, the gift was opened in the 2010 year. It was opened suddenly because it was through a disease that the condition came. Well, I've been in this state for 7 years now.
Forgetting, does it mean that you have had a coma experience?
The experience of turning off consciousness for a while.
Well, we can say that you have returned another reprogrammed.
Yes, absolutely different and generally different. At first, I was engaged in business, I was in the process of permanent work, and now I am in development.
And how do you explain to yourself why it happened, what happened? Why exactly did you open it?
There are still no explanations, because I still don't understand why exactly I am, but the information of civilization is given, that the soul chose such an experience, and therefore I am now in such a state.
You have a unique sound channel. Can you tell us in more detail how the attunement, the so-called activation of the channel, took place?
Yes, initially there was attunement. They really said it correctly, because the attunement system went through sound states. That is, at first I wrote and received information only through the annals. And now what happens is that I just relax my mind, relax myself, and relax my mouth. And I get sound vibrations that give further decoding.
Can you tell me more? In other words, do you switch mentally somehow?
I absolutely do not turn on the mind. I am in the flow and broadcast as a sound vibration. You can say that it is not me who is speaking.
That is, this broadcast is going on, as if you are relaxing. It turns out that the mouth, and he himself.
Mind, and I am in a state that it is not me.
Are you essentially in this state as a walkie-talkie?
Maybe something is.
At the same time, how is the process of setting up this walkie-talkie going on? That is, what are you set up for now?
What is possible? Any settings, and because it happens at any time, in any state. And I am always on the information channel.
You have experience with different higher forms of consciousness. Can you please tell us in general what these forms of consciousness are and how the process of interaction with them takes place in you?
Different systems are connected. Sound vibrations also give different systems of linguistic, galactic languages give. The broadcast takes place in exactly the same way as in the channel of the target civilization. In other words, it is not difficult for me to be on the information fields with some, with others. Therefore, everything is in the usual mode. I relax and get it.
You said that you have an energy contract with a civilization that gives them information. You share with people. Is there any so-called code or basic rules of contact that have been dictated to you?
One rule is not to disclose information, and try to help as much as possible a person who is not defined in this way.
There is a comparison that our world is a kind of performance, a game, and everyone has their own role in this performance. That's your role. And do you agree with this expression?
Yes, I agree with this, because indeed we are in some kind of game in the matrix, which people, playing these games and going through these events in time, go through a certain life stage, but at the same time you each have your own scenario. It is given in order to live, to be filled, to develop some kind of energy, and in order to pass this life more qualitatively and more consciously, In general, contactees are sent, including in the form of me, in order to help people and somehow have a new life.
You broadcast in the galactic language with, let's say, sequential or simultaneous translation. How many galactic languages are there in general, and how many of these languages have been broadcast through you?
I can't say exactly how many languages were broadcast, and there are many different energies in each territory of their civilizations. But at the same time, the languages are completely different. Different vibrations sound signals at the same time translation comes. And depending on what kind of curation, which civilizations, and these sound vibrations manifest themselves. Any civilization on a certain territory is connected, and I broadcast.
And what are the main messages from different civilizations that are transmitted through you at the first contact?
But most often, this happens most often in the opening of hearts, in the opening of awareness, awareness in development, and begin with some kind of blissful states, with blissful speeches that open people up and have contact with communication.
Do you think that in the future people on Earth will also communicate in some kind of galactic language among themselves?
Yes, it is possible that such an option will be such an eventfulness of options. But the fact is that, as civilizations tell us, every fifth person will be a contact in order to move, develop, and guide themselves, including people. Therefore, it is already actively manifested. I think it will be quite active among people to develop and give these new states.
Many people in the form of you have a desire to also become a contact channel.
Many people want to, but the fact is that this is a complex process. In fact, it is not easy to give. These are certain difficulties with the physical state with energy. So if it is not given, it may not be worth striving for, because it is not easy work, and I consider it a kind of gift of my own. Yes, someone can even say a knife, but because it really requires certain energy costs and the state requires certain attention. It is the energy state, because it wears out very much during work, and the body and energy are not enough. So you have to restore, and time passes very quickly in connection with these conditions.
And what are the advantages of being a contact?
Probably in order to know all your events in time faster, and at the same time, use this channel in order to pass your life path more easily, with a certain hint in life.
And what is the most difficult information that has come to you lately?
The information comes completely different. The fact is that I experienced different states myself, because for the first years it was very difficult to endure different states of people who experience when answering with information about their state of life. But I also took very close to my heart, very much from this myself. But now taking into account the fact that I understand why such events are given, and consciously understand what processes a person goes through in the sphere of these events. Naturally, there are processes that even sometimes I rejoice, despite the fact that these are destructive studies in people. But at the same time, these are new resources for human development that are given when these states are worked out.
Irina, what is good and what is bad?
But there is probably no such understanding of what is good and bad. But there is only probably a state of conscious acceptance of these processes, because every process is good. And if we talk about bad, it will definitely be good. If we talk about good, it means that there will still be some destructive moments that will give some kind of lesson or experience in order for the human soul to grow consciously and find its way further.
Why do you think more highly developed entities contact us? What is their task, the issue?
Well, there is an understandable process here. First of all, because the system of our Earth is very much depleted. People are exhausted. They ruin themselves, eat incorrectly, take alcohol, various destructive programs, while wearing out themselves, and the earth as a whole. And they are our helpers first of all, because they work only for development, and only for the formation of a more resource field, in order for a person to live more openly, qualitatively, and go through this path of development of this particular incarnation.
And what is the path of man and the soul in general? The development of the soul of spiritual growth. What are the stages?
I clearly understand the people who come and who are really already in a deep development and in a different state of consciousness. Because when a person loses interest in life, he no longer understands where to go, what to do, where to move. And this is the point of zeroing, which is given to a person. It is given for a reason, but still in order to bring to a new level and give new opportunities to realize oneself in another field, in another quality of life, and to understand oneself in a different form.
It turns out that a person, well, or his soul, in the future, also developing, will help more or less developed entities.
But according to my experience, I also went through this life path and was far from a developed soul, and now I am far from developed. But I am also studying. The fact is that every person who comes into life, he gives some new state and a new awareness. Therefore, each way it is interesting. It is interesting that the soul develops, finds itself in more resource-based programs, which are given again for development. And then there is a new interest in life, which gives new opportunities to go into more interesting states.
Do you work with people in person and very much by video on Skype? Can you describe how the process takes place?
The process is the same, that on Skype, that at a personal meeting. It is enough for me to enter the information field and read the information that, again, is given by civilization or the teacher's system. And it goes exactly the same. There is no difference. Therefore, I can find people through virtual communication and through simply requested some data. There must be data, because without data, there is no information field, and the presence of a surname, first name, patronymic, dates is mandatory. They give me the opportunity to enter these information fields.
It turns out that the surname, patronymic, and date of birth, and the location of the territory, are a kind of key for accessing the information field.
Yes, that's how this access is opened. Yes.
And how does the opening process itself happen when you read out these data?
Galactic data via energy sounds. I send data to the office, open databases based on this data, and give information.
Are they opening up to you or civilizations?
They discover civilization through sound vibration. Accordingly, I have an adaptation of these sounds, and I am already presenting the information in full with the Russian language.
And if a person has changed either his first name or last name at some point in his life, this affects the connection too.
Yes, there are very frequent such cases, when either they do not find the field, or they do not read the information for a number of reasons, but at the same time, they request again. They request what other data there was in order to find and disclose the information field. And these conditions happen quite often. But again, generic surnames are most often requested, because the main base is still built on the generic surname.
But these civilizations, are they constantly connected to this information field? Or is it some kind of substance that you can enter and exit?
I am free, and I can go out at any time, even day and night, and I do not need to conduct any specific setup. I am in the system of these information fields at any time, and can get any information at any time.
And what is the office, did you say?
The Chancellery, as I explained to civilization, is the base where all the codes of our information fields are, and with the help of which I get these disclosures of information fields, in order to find out the entire database for a certain incarnation of a person, either human or a cell, in order to read.
And who is in charge of this office?
The higher self gives a program. The program works for the soul. The soul is in every person, and everyone knows for sure that it is impossible for the soul to exist, and at the same time, the higher one plans all the events that a person goes through in his life. And these events are spelled out in time, according to the readiness of the soul. In order for the system to be ready, some tests and experiments are being conducted in order to pass all new and new experiences. Therefore, each event is either positive or negative for each significant event, because the system really leads us. And no matter how many times I check myself, it is impossible to influence this or that situation while knowing the information and reading my information field. In any case, they will display that point of the event in order to get a certain experience and go further.
Do you believe in fate yourself?
Yes.
And what is fate?
But this is a planned program that is given to a person, given to each person, in order to pass this path, and certain energy fields at work, so that the soul continues to work in the system of the Absolute, the universe, and gives its results, fruits.
Can't you run away from fate?
I think not. It all depends on us again in terms of the fact that in any case, the soul must undergo an experience what it is laid down, and for certain states, it gives a certain program, a certain illusion, a certain game in which we are. But at the same time, the soul, consciously going through this experience, receives certain energies from which it is impossible to escape, because the soul has planned all the events. It is to collect these energies, get results, go further into other fields, and work.
Do you feel like the hero of the movie Avatar?
No. Oh, no, I don't feel it. I don't feel like an avatar either. I'm usually the same. I just have an information channel that makes it possible to get more information than conscious beings. People who live and eat the same way are also in this space. And I have absolutely the same programs. I'm absolutely the same as you.
That is, those forms of consciousness with which you are in contact, they, let's say, do not inhabit you, and cannot control your body thoughts.
They can't control. They can control. Only they can only direct. They definitely can't control.
Do you feel your free will?
Now, there is no point in the fact that I am so attached to my work that I do not have the opportunity to feel free. Unfortunately, this is the experience of the soul. I have repeatedly asked questions, and why me? Why did it happen to me? Because I have absolutely never been attached to the egregor. I have never believed in anything, and the state that is given to me, it is new to me, and I absolutely did not study, did not read anything historical, did not know anything, and did not undergo any practices. That is, I was absolutely far from it. But in the sphere of such events that happened to me, they give me the opportunity to also develop with you, to learn, to go through this experience.
What will happen next for you?
As a person, you know, in fact, I even ask very little about myself, because I go in the flow and am in this state, in a state of acceptance, because I already like this state. Although for many years going through this experience and being on the channel, I did not realize myself in this state for a long time, because for me, this is a kind of complex process that did not give me peace of mind. But taking into account the fact that I was given such an experience, I already accept what I have, and going through different programs in life, and having worked, and go through development to some extent, and be in this state, naturally another consciousness and other thoughts come to mind. And at the same time, I understand that I absolutely go without a goal, without tasks, but freely, calmly go into what is given to me and just following what is happening around. And everything is really difficult. And those people who come, they give new opportunities, new directions, and new states. The circle changes, people change. This gives more active processes.
Irina, can we ask you to tune into the channel and show how the setup processes are going?
And you can ask any question, and I will be able to answer through the setup.
Previously, how much time did you need to tune into?
It was a long process. In fact, before I went to Civilization, I communicated with the teacher's system. It was Seraphim of Sarov, a saint of the Orthodox egregor, who gave me information through writing. This is how I received information through the channel, Russian language. And now everything is completely different, because I have released higher energy fields that give me the opportunity to receive information through a sound signal, and thus I can decode information through the galactic language, right there, and through the Russian text, through Russian words to give information.
And can we ask a question right now in the online mode of the civilization of Hamilia? Hamilia, please tell me why you chose Irina as your walkie-talkie, let's say, and contacts.
I welcome you. Hannah, the fact is that the Duin system was not chosen by me, and Harabat is wrong. This system was planned in the system of entering the spirit of the code as tools on the axis of civilization of a certain field of Heine Paskin in order to determine the setting of Thomas-Bata assets before the departure of the mass of Heine and define themselves in the system of activating terrestrial programs. Hannah, the soul, chose such an experience, and Hannah signed contracts, and on the basis of this contract, a step of activity is conducted. Did you where Hira Masahaba Khan? At the same time, the soul chose different systems of the mass Rita state. First of all, this is the passage of earthly programs and women's programs of the asset of Khanbit, love, and Khan hell of work, the family of Dashta Khan. Therefore, the program, going through these segments of Alam Shin's activity, going through the experiments of Hir Maz Khan Rabas Karabat, chose this experience, and when passing the path of Rimat Masha, she is given the opportunity to enter more active resource fields in order to create.
And who chose Irina's soul, or did you choose Irina and her soul?
Duty here Massa Masahada. The soul has concluded a contract and a carrier in order for the energy carrier of the Earth system to participate in the process of the Absolute. On duty, Magi Matter Master Hada Basida, soul signed a contract for these assets, and Irina is in fact now a tool for working with these energies.
And Irina is currently aware of herself with this tool.
And Masahira, Masa Khan, she calculates with her consciousness only the fact that she has certain systems of sounds and vibrations inherent in the mind of Masa Khan, through which she learns about the duty work of Khan, and projects these systems for the information carrier, and realizes that material has been created for humanity.
Please tell me, is it even possible to travel in time?
Of course, these possible states are available in assets in order for Limashi Masa Harabat to possess this segment and study this tool. You need concentration, attention, hero closing the mind program. Therefore, in order to get into these assets, you need practice.
And is it part of the experience of human soul development, moving between time travel between spaces?
At Alimashon, each of you can create these fields by having a control system of your Khan consciousness. Therefore, you can control the system yourself Hita Khan, but at the same time awareness must be great in order to calculate these software modules and Lima Mama's Habata and undergo decoding of energy codes in order to learn.
But first, you need to feel yourself with this very energy.
Oh, Dima, bad Hannah, the question is not even feelings, but Dima Astrakhan's question is the state of his consciousness, and the work of Honorable. To what extent the higher self can unravel certain systems of the program, it's a bit fire, and give you stuff through disclosure.
And do we understand correctly that the higher self has access to all, in principle, programs that can be unpacked, and she simply lets it down according to the level of development of a person's awareness?
Hannah, indeed, the system of consciousness only respects the material that vibrationally Hadabat is perceived by the level of your state. That's why the system aims to develop you as human beings. I am on duty to give you a system of a more active vibration field Paskin in order to disclose your article to Astrakhan and take you to more resource programs.
You give practices through Irina, which is called activation of the chakral system during these practices. Well, people feel a kind of tremor, that is, by and large they shake in different poses, they activate the centers, breathe. At the same time, well, as we understand it, there is an increase in, let's say, vibrations, and purification from destructive energy, negative energy. And then this destructive negative energy, it goes where? Into the ground, or do you recycle it somehow?
And the work of Mr. Masha is the work of Masa Hiroda, and they have created a lot of different tools and carriers that make it possible, and a cool mass of Arabat. You clean yourself, and thereby increase the level of activity of the energy field with the soul of Masakhan's work. Therefore, we give out various tools so that you demashmans keep yourself as much as possible in the energy intensity system, Rima, and these practices just to the fact that I think they give a system of energy supply carrier, and in the incarnation in which you are and Mahana passing through life paths, Leda Persimmon, you accumulate a system of activity of the brand of energy comas. And this tool was created precisely so that the mass of the Khan could remove these cams, and so that your physical shell would not suffer from the Khan, and you would pass this life more easily.
But the practices that you give, are they universal, or will they indicate your approach to energy development?
To a greater extent, these are universal segments, and the profitable one is suitable for different energy modules, with a female and male asset. But again, to say that a Limash Khan's classical scheme suits everyone, it is not Astrakhan in any case. The individual process is more resource-intensive and Shrabbit, because there are some comas that require deep study and demishirs, and accordingly, the bodies are already so worn out that it is necessary to include more resource programs. Arameshika for what we give Dorapita are only those techniques that give you Damasaha for cleaning, structured activation of the works of Mata Khan, and those Energoka that you accumulate Rema Roman. With the help of these tools and flows of energy Basharpata Lin structures, you can dump moves through these channels and Demarabat through these racks, and through these exchange fields that we give you, with the help of cleaning the structure of the energy centers and the mass of Khan, there is a reset. In a certain program of Hermish mass, these segments of different energy carriers are laid down in order for our Mahana to work energy and dump unnecessary waste materials.
Is there a tangible effect of a person, when engaging in this practice, of activating the immune system, well, relatively speaking, once, or is regularity, daily occurrence important here?
About Ramashin Khan, we recommend to everyone that all the states of your centers and on Hamas, Hiram Khan work constantly and provide the necessary resources for Thomas Khan's assets, because the human reserve works with the help of these centers and on Khan, and you are energy beings. and the mass of Mata Khan. Accordingly, you keep an eye on your physical shell. You must keep an eye on your centers in order to be in the energy intensity, in the asset of the fields of Lida Kermas Khan. Therefore, we recommend that the system be cleaned, structured, and replenished daily. Alima Shermas Khan spends a little time on himself in order to pass time regimes with resources. And I keep the masks work on your events in Hiramashi Bishada time and line up more qualitatively in life.
In other words, it turns out that in the future people will constantly feel their energy centers online, monitor them.
Elimashi Mashahida Hana. The fact is that these systems of state, they are already embedded in the system of earthly incarnation. The Ramash Harabata are just certain segments of people. I think that the work of Khan is as allocated to certain different resource states of Hiramash Khan of your energy fields. Rima Shikan and each nationality are distributed according to energy programs. Rima is a screen of Sukhan if we talk, for example, about the nationality of the Chinese and the spirits of the mass of Khan. They are more resourceful. They are more conscious beings and Khan. And almost every carrier of the soul, I think, is in the system of already active programs and is constantly in the energy field. Hermashkin, that is, takes care of himself. Rindo Mashamada Khan. And this is the state of the work system, as you take care of the body, and this is the norm of the state of a permanent daily base. The same thing happens with the energy field or Arabata, which requires attention, and you have to purify yourself every day. Elima Shipata, accordingly, replenish and already work, and find a balance in the energy field. Rita 1, and we recommend that you do this every day in order to be in the resource of both Astrakhan Bat and Drujikin. Since you are temporary beings, you have software carriers of the temporary mode built in the field system, but you have to understand that you are wearing out and Maupassant Khan, and this is the worn-out state of the physical shell system. I think that Rococo can be maintained at the expense of the energy field and pass these times more resourcefully, even these events that are planned for you in the system.
And is there much freedom of choice for a person now in this reality?
Shahina, no matter how sad it sounds, Lida, you all have programmed moves, the duty Khan. The question of the quality of the system, of passing these moves to work, depends only on you. Lima Ramamata Khan. Therefore, when we give information on the system of your passage of the path, Lida, Zherbota, each of you should understand that the quality of the system of passing through those events that are embedded in the material of Alam Shamar Khan depends only on your vibrational state, Hida Kubo, and how consciously you perceive this field of Ita course, and how much you go through the event series of this field. Depends on your vibration again. Therefore, we strongly recommend everyone to increase this level of activity and duty machine in order to more easily pass this vital potential that you are given on the way.
In other words, we have the freedom to choose to be in a more resourceful state or in a less resourceful state.
Remus Khan. At the same time, the events in any case are on the field that you need to pass Dimash Karabata. The question is, in what state will you go? Through either in a constructive conscious field and in a state of energy production, or a broad path, or you will go through the same state, but working through destructive programs on Shirkhan, which will again give you energy production, but at the same time, you must accumulate more destructive Dehan in order to replenish the energy cell that it is necessary to pass in this incarnation.
In other words, the meaning of a person's life is the production of various kinds of vibration of energy.
Oman Haida, the point is that every human soul, even just a creature that is on the abbot's land, should fill its cell with energy. And since the energies of the earth, they are different from the system of the absolute as a whole. Fashion, therefore, almost every soul that is in the absolute, both in the sphere and in the work of energy, or undergoes this experience, either the incarnation of an animal, or a plant, or stones passes. And at the same time, the system must gain energy through any carrier of the Khan, or through any state that the Hida Kramuta Mr. Makri Master of the Khan gives you, and develop a certain energy that is necessary for the cell to pass the path of this master pattern in the sphere of the absolute.
Do we understand correctly that a person is created in the image and likeness of the Creator?
Masha Mata has everything similar. Fox is similar even to the fact that your world is arranged by Hirata in such a way that there is a limit, that you are so similar to the absolute and different civilizations programs that you actively go through this experience and ideas of Hiramashi Masa Rabbit Khan and the structure of the structure as a whole, as a system of programs of the carrier of life. It does not matter on which demobot, the planetary active field, and in which of the visual background of the Harabat Khan limb. The passage of the systems is almost identical to each other, just different levels of awareness. Activation of fields, they give their material and fruits.
But physically, why are people like this? Do they have two eyes, two hands?
Each measuring composition has civilizations that lead a certain direction of their fields. And when civilization participates in the system of your modules, and if we talk about the portrait of a person before Astrakhan and the form of the human reserve in the RIME database, this is pure software basics, which are given in order for your programs to perceive exactly the human status or other resource programs of the demo, according to the software that is programmed in the traffic police program. Rest, that is, Guy has Alima Haha programs. This is because the computer technology of fashion has a certain spectrum of availability of the basis, Alima additional resources, tools for the activation system and duty, just like you and everything like that.
In other words, Gaia as a matrix laid down patterns. What should people be like?
Absolutely everything is laid down as a foundation software system. If you see me and then you see me like this, if you see this state of illusion, then you have the same software modules working exactly on the state of the asset. The only thing that happens, let's say, by a person to matter Masterhand, is the color scheme, the fashion of the calculation of modules. There are not enough of them for everyone in the matrix. It is the main one. What does this mean? That you can look at the same subject of the limit while seeing a different color scheme and smoke a different Vita Mahabat vibration in megahertz. The rhyme of Harabat is the place of creation of the matrix. It may slightly change your angles of degree of income when serving the rim Harabat field, but at the same time, each of you calculates this Karama glass as a single object, our work as a single illusion.
Do you study people's Gaia independently through the information field, or does your cognition happen through you, through your instrument Irina?
Damasha Paskana, the fact is that once I had an incarnation that also brought me a certain experience, and I know approximately how the structure is built, because there are memory backgrounds in the cell system, and they give me quite a lot of experience, and this experience and Hannah is useful to me in working with you. Alina Marta Hannah, in general, I was created here through the tools of the Rin carrier. I think Hono will work out certain active fields with you. Damashpet also develops experiments. Hiromasrabats build a structure in such a way as to go and Hiroshimana, so that every human soul, every human program Rita, she sought to reach more resource-based systems of the state in order to work to improve the quality of people's lives.
And can you tell us about the experience of your incarnations? How many times have you incarnated on Earth?
Ori Khan, I will say right away that the souls and consciousness reluctantly go into this incarnation. Ida, only because the vibration asset system is very low. And it is very difficult for us to realize that the mandrel is debited, that these low fields are very complex macro moves. Damaskin, despite the fact that everything is simple for you, Hero has such low vibrations in your work, and is on duty, that souls sometimes suffer so much, and here the fears on them carry negatives, that they suffer from themselves.
And if the souls reluctantly come here to incarnate, then who forces them?
Amata, the fact is that the system is so tuned that Dimash Maskana, having passed the path of all energy collections, in different incarnations, in different forms of energy fields, Matra Astrakhan cell is gaining fashion material in order to come out and give its definition in the system of the Absolute and the Khan. In other words, the cell earns mass experience through different resource programs of either a person or entities, or through different planetary assets of the essence of existence. Cunningly, this is given only so that Elipada, each of the cell system, gives its new material to that work of Hirotaken. And when the cell is filled with different active fields, different energies, it is given the opportunity to enter more resource-based programs, and the system becomes independent. Rita, and is given the opportunity to create new materials and the omnipresence of worlds and Hanabit, to work with souls actively. Hero, to develop energy fields in the system, absolutely. What is the task in general? Limit. Because a lot of programs are being created in the absolute, including in your field, your Mana Nageya Lima Rahana. This requires an additional resource. I think that extra energy, Aliba's Rabata, and the task system absolutely activate the membrane as much as possible and create a program for the energy field resource system.
Irina, here we have just talked to you on very high matters. Have you remembered what we have just talked about?
But now I'll remember because I've been talking about it a lot. People ask questions, and that's why I kind of understand what it's about. And I have memorization now, but when absolutely new information comes, that absolutely did not enter my consciousness in any way, then accordingly I do not count on it, and do not remember it immediately. It's like a state of knowledge. That is, if it is said several times, then there is memorization. If it comes at the same time, and at the same time has absolutely no role, then most often these states are closed and removed from my consciousness. That is, I do not remember anything.
Can we continue to communicate with the surname now?
Rima, I'm with you.
Hamilia, please tell me it turns out that the mandatory stage of soul development is, or rather the next stage, is civilization.
The fact is that the gradation of the soul system is so diverse, and each soul goes through a different experience in definition, and this experience must be so diverse and unstable in order to know, realize, and go through different resource fields. Hannah, therefore, the soul goes through different Chiron states, from mosquitoes, even if it is a soul, really Chiromas rapata, to certain entities that are significant in the universe. Hiroza, Karbarbarabata Khan. Therefore, this is a colossal experience, and at the same time, the Dimash Rapata system is absolutely configured so that it shows that the same energies, energy fields, and robots work, that is, the number of souls is the same. They cannot be created more, less, and Strahan, and only energy material can be created. Elimeshika on energy is produced by beings who undergo this experience in order to replenish the Rima's Ramada field, on Imashi, and his end absolutely in general.
And we can say that you now also have the opportunity to create your own worlds.
If we talk now about the power supply system, even your base, we can say that we are also creating your field and alarm only because we are giving a new level of information to the debate, which gives you the opportunity to enter new resource fields and Damashikans to realize new programs. Rina Persimmon with work. And if we talk about your progress, Masakan, if we talk about UN 20 years ago, you could not even imagine that you were at home, that there is a relationship of information fields with certain civilizations that can contact the Earth. There's a cabin with you, but at the same time roam Shrikona. Why is this happening? This is only because the consciousness was not ready. Minds are being mined. And in order to accumulate these assets, different programs and different structures were created. The hand of the work collected energy for the hero energy field, and thus this massive Khan revealed a new truth and a new essence of the program. Therefore, to say that we are the creators, and to some some extent, yes, because we are now creating a new world for you and Chiron. The conditions of the Khan program, we are slowly preparing you to reach a more resourceful state and hero mama shakens, which give you the opportunity to go out on the basis of your knowledge base. And today there are new fields in the resource system that give you the opportunity for new knowledge.
In other words, this new experience turns out for you. The next experience of creating your own world is happening at the moment, through the creation of the fourth club.
But these are just parts of the work of the traffic police. Our task is to raise the power system of the traffic police of Alam Astrakhan. Accordingly, we are actively working with the architects of Hira. We are actively working with the Chancellery in order to create a higher level of awareness and fear for you before you leave. Accordingly, your consciousness should be ready to perceive new states. Idahana, we are slowly, resourcefully bringing you to these fields. Yes, Maharabashi, choose all negative programs, first of all, so that your energy field does not decrease, and you raise yourself a resource for the mass of the novel.
And how does this interaction happen? In other words, you are going to civilizations, discussing what to do with Architect's Request Response Office.
We have slightly different cons moves, but in order for your consciousness to recognize, we are Rima Khan. We also create programs. We can say that we are programmers, mods. And if you compare the computer module of old programs for Windows and BAT, what is called old Windows for you, Elima have a habit, which is relevant today and does not have its own significance. The same thing is happening to you now. Alina, you exit from the old Windows, switch to the new pane format, Alina actively resource. And the task is precisely to Harabat Khan, you dig to work, to create a field for you in a new job, so that you spend less energy and get more results. And for this, there must be vibrational ones.
In other words, you are, in fact, programming a new operating system in which we...
It's your language, that's it.
And you program from scratch, or you use templates already created by someone or...
Everything is like that. Of course, the work of architects is colossal hero Astrakhan, and even we are civilizations, passing through experience, since we have the knowledge and experience of the system of all incarnations, and through conscious modules, that is, we have memories, Elima, on the basis of those bases and Hiram, we are building a structure that will be recommended to you as an assistant for mastering the program before entering the new module.
Is it possible to interact with architects directly?
Unfortunately, it is impossible to do this because the system is built in such a way that the architect's work works only with high systems of consciousness, and everyone has a task. Hiram Astrakhan, you go to work, build a life for yourself, and work for Masaharabat with the financial flows of the estuary. This is your life. Experience love, like in the same way, and software stand in all civilizations in determining the field to work, and receive through different carriers of internal programs of the shark house to their fields.
Here on Earth, people are exchanging money now. Some are already starting with cryptocurrencies. Here in your dimensions, what is the subject of exchange? That is, it is a value transmitted from each other.
Well, you have programs calculated, the resources of your financial flows, and Arabats on bridges, as a system of a money carrier program. These are paper carriers that calculate your consciousness, and you use it in everyday life. Rishi Karaba's Rapa, but it's all energy. She's in your mind. The system of the program course is calculated that the Damachikans have Idarakan's money, and the towers are working through these paper equivalent carriers, Limishpata, but at the same time, it is a program. The Lady of Habata has an energy field structure, and the limits are therefore those energy fields that are laid down in the outpatient state. It's all energy and work, and we work in the same way, only through the energy potential, but the range of the program, of course, is up to another. We have higher activity systems and software, and Alima is a chicane, which allows you to calculate more resource assets at your con level. It is calculated as a system of certain objects, a kind of visualization, and we only have an energy field. Rima Shimahan, they are calculated through the energy supply system. the same work of the Mashirkan. In other words, the work of energy is the Rima system of the bat stroke. In your opinion, it is megahertz, and the spirit we have through coding, programs are calculated through megahertz. Rhyme, that is, there is no presence of work. Visualization as you have an illusory state of the field. And Leda we have a system of calculating codes that do not work in the absolute and in the matrix. And Dukins give their materials, programs.
In other words, it turns out that you exchange energy through megahertz, like you have galactic money.
But your consciousness calculates money as a kind of carrier that gives you life support, and in general, the whole base is built on this, a lima of Astrakhan. Our basic system is energy, no work of the Astrakhan world. Therefore, the system of a certain code has the basis of hell, which has the essence and significance in the absolute. And just like you have money on earth, this is the main background of Alam. If we talk about them, persimmon, and if you compare them, it's all Heimat energy, just different feeds, different levels of state of mind and fashion. Therefore, it is difficult for Riemann to say that they are the same Don. This is all energy, and it's just that this energy is embedded in a program that is calculated with your consciousness.
And is there an opportunity to convert these megahertz, essentially galactic, this currency, into money here on Earth?
The fact is that we have programs on our air, as a monetary carrier is not calculated. Hannah, this has absolutely no significance or role for us, and the energy of the field of Rome mask system is on the calculation of finances. It is absolutely not significant for us, because our level of consciousness absolutely does not allow. And we do not need to know these programs. The structure is absolutely different, which we absolutely do not need and do not have in the calculation field, as the structure of energy carriers is basic, like yours.
But you, fulfilling your mission work here on Earth on Gay, get your interest in megahertz, in energy, and who gives it to you, pays.
The fact is that all the energy is in the fields, which is given only so that you exist and generate energy. Therefore, the system is given only to the energy field of each resource of consciousness. I am awareness. You are consciousness. Rima Sahara Bushkona is a conscious being to each in its own measure. Leda generated a certain amount of energy as her hyphen field progressed. Therefore, every creature, even a mosquito, Hirota, he also generates energy. Therefore, to talk about what the absolute is, Himasakan is just a set of life mutakon of different energy fields, different structures, different forms, different programs. These are repeats that also have the energy carrier of Likmir Basakan, and this is the whole field of energy.
And is it possible to say that we and you live in the sphere of boundless, unstructured energy? The work is actually to structure it.
Oh, you understand that each segment of consciousness works precisely for production. Hannah, if we talk about an inanimate being without a conscious module, the con mass limit is a state system and generates energy. Hirasa Hodapota. And why is the task of the ether field in general to create an energy field to the maximum to the huma? Therefore, a different range of programs are created in order for you to work as souls. Maskin's remissions were experienced by the bridge. The guys felt love, feelings filled with poems. This is all given in order for you to develop activity. Poems, if you put a battery in an object, it has worn out. It needs to be charged in order for it to give material. Again, like emotions of the cons world, it's the same here. State systems are being created to ensure that the energy resource always works. With us, with you, it doesn't matter in which field Remy is, but at the same time, this system is one. It's all energy.
Now, a very relevant topic is blockchain and cryptocurrency. Is this structure like an absolute, where the open code, all actions are recorded, and transactions are transparent to all participants of the system?
Rome has a screen and Mr. Khan. Yes, this is an excellent system, which is given out not at all the pressing material of the earthly incarnation in order for the system of energy consumption of the human reserve. It was minimized on the field of Hamilia Cikunova because the idea of astrakhan is when you use a monetary carrier as a tool, in the form of a document, in the form of paper background, Rima is sizzling. You experience certain energies when feeding, drive the work of work when collecting, Alamamas arcana, and your energy resource systems are being depleted. Is it not the same but? And in order to avoid this exhaustion, these states of chiromaskin before Mark Han, this system was created in order to pass these systems of programs in your incarnation with more resources in order to get results. Pass hammock experiments, but at the same time minimize the costs of your energies.
And how do you recommend that a person at the moment perceive information about the blockchain and cryptocurrencies? Open up to it or wait?
And the thing is that you are in a new system. You enter into new moves in order to create a new base, a new state, new broadcast programs. Rome therefore creates an active field in order to resource Rome icon in a new format. This is Astrakhan. This is to the question of Windows old or Windows new worked in more resource fields. What does this mean? You eat, you live, you interact with each other and hits. But at the same time, you develop a definition of different structures, shikata, and when you are in a better resource state of Haydn, you work with more resource programs of Hiramashikin, eat right, drink clean water, Hiram Mahabat, are in a good state of mind, Masaha, for example, Bali, Ali spirit, rather than in the Hamato Huta system, in severe frost. Ali, you are experiencing the energy of the spirit, and in order for this field to work, the mass of arbiter Khan builds the relationship in such a way that a new field of programs is structurally built by Khan, the rift of the mid-Khan, and on this new field of carrier software, based on the old Hiram bases, the sheets give a system of a new energy field, in the form of a monetary carrier of virtual money, which will have the essence of the significance of Shaka in your everyday life as a system of the basis of the program. The turnip is just an updated form of the progress limit, which is given for your new level of reproduction of the conscious state of Hero Marakan, so that you can switch to new programs with resources and experience fewer destructive fields in this presence of the field.
Now there is an opportunity for everyone to create, one might say, their own currency, their virtual money assets. Whether this is an objective stage in the development of the entire system, or everything will go to a single carrier, as you have now megahertz.
In any case, the money carrier system is a program. You have been given a resource from the Absolute to more actively go through these states, through highly vibrational systems, and the type of maximum destructive base carriers. But at the same time, this is all the energy field that gives you the opportunity to work in these fields, and Masakani exist in this life. Alina, only the field of activity changes dramatically here, since the money tool is the main carrier that holds all the programs of your existence. You have been created a more resource-based Dimash module, a more mobile system, in order to activate yourself. Do not waste energy on any movements on any states. Therefore, here only the improved module of the program system gives you new opportunities for the energy system of your life and work with these software modules.
In other words, it means that you work less and earn more.
What is meant here is that to spend less energy, but at the same time, to work with the same energy carrier for money, but at the same time not to spend energy, go to get Ali mid-Arabat Khan's salary, or go to the store to spend money carrier. Hiromasic needs to be given away. You need to take the whole energy field. This is the work of Hiram Khan. So a virtual connection has been built in order to carry your energy field as little as possible,
so that there is more time left for meditation.
Khan, but again for development, yes.
And what is the general vector of development of this entire blockchain system, cryptocurrency, for the next year or two?
This is a new program that gives you new resource systems of state, spirituality. Everything is new. Dukti Mass is a monetary carrier of Masabata energy, your state of the database system. Rome and other products, other mass works, other food, other water, Hinmash repats. Everything is different. You look back at Alakmit Khan, look back at the journal, and even at your jealous resource. What happened happened 10 years ago and Masha Khan, and what is happening now. Handicraft is absolutely two different programs that are the main ones of their work, but at the same time, they produce an absolutely different spectrum of the Hirama field. That is, you are already working in high purity, rather than remission-rolled experience earlier.
In other words, the future belongs to the creation of new ecosystems.
Khan, ecosystems, green systems, a clean product, clean water, a clean cell system, an energy field, a Gurma. These are all complex systems again for you, in order for the exchange fields to pass resource-wise.
And how quickly these ecosystems will be created and perceived in a person's lifestyle on a daily basis.
The fact is that your consciousnesses are already calculating. You have been prepared, and you are being led to this day in order to recognize the new Remy Mashpat program to become. But each of you should understand that the old forms of the Dikma Marthakhan program, if we talk about the system of the state of your consciousness, are considered worse. For example, 1920th year and March, well, or the 30th and 1930th. He no longer recognizes the new programs because there is no form of awareness here. Ramakan perceive new programs, new membranes and bazapat, and enter a new energy field. Remy Makins therefore have their own systems of states for each time, passing the path and gaining experience on the move, which gives you the opportunity to remission, to give new fields of activity to work in the database. Therefore, I congratulate you on being at that time. Rome was captured by the old Hymas programs. What is the basis of life for you? The fashion limit. And you are now given the opportunity to study new materials of remit modules. But each of you should understand that Dima Raya Beta, that new programs are not given just like that. Hannah Debata. To do this, something needs to be done in order to be aware, accept and perceive. Therefore, we are actively working now to ensure that Rimi Sina, your level of consciousness, perceives new software modules, and Hiro Masahana. And in order for him to perceive and calculate these new programs, you must be resourcefully prepared and a smart machine. But in order to prepare, you definitely need to be resourceful. It is vibrational and active. Eli Machina. In order to become vibrationally active, you must at least keep Hidana your energy to work out this field of Hidama Shabbat. Respectively, all the old programs that exhausted you, Hiroshi did not give energy and did not give filling to Arabat, Roman Sukona. Unfortunately, this was how the field of the third foundation was originally built, and the destructive system took energy from you. Therefore, Damashkin little life is given to you by Hermitian, because the energy potential does not allow Ramada to distribute your time fields more resource-wise. Therefore, the states that are being given to you now, only for the increase in the system of the walkie-talkie module, are given only so that you recognize a newer essence and Hiramashini, and bring humanity into a new state. Ida Masakan. Once upon a time it was the Stone Age, and already the work of Masakan. Then it was structured, and Hiramashikona was given a new growth. Remishin was given new programs. Hiram Shikana now is a new time, which gives even more possible structures for calculating the Ligmishpat material. Therefore, there is only the Donbass Khan to develop here, especially since we are the assistants of the Haimat Khan. You have a lot of masters working on the Hinaman guy, who structurally, and will also work with information fields, civilizations in order to raise humanity and develop it. Rigu Khan. Therefore, all states are given only to Mitraman, only to increase the development of your souls.